loud. Am I? Okay, I am. I feel like I am. Oh wow, it's really high. Oh well. I'm gonna be reacting to MCU heroes who will become villains. Really?
You either die a hero or live long enough to want to punch another hero in their stupid hero face.
Sometimes I want to punch you in your perfect teeth.
Some heroes break bad, and the MCU has a few lurking around who just might. One of the artificial rules of a shared universe is when two heroes meet for the first time.
I'm Clint. I'm Scott.
I'm not a girl, I'm a boy. I mean, I'm a man.
They fight. It's easy to understand. Good guys wear garish costumes. Bad guys wear garish costumes. How do you know what side they're on without asking what their mother's name is? But just like wrestlers go from hero to heel, some heroes end up switching sides for various reasons. Here are 10 bad guy time bombs hiding out in the MCU.
Oh, show me. Give it to me.
Superman has Lex Luthor, Batman has the Joker, the Fantastic Four has Doctor Doom, and Spider-Man has the Green Goblin. While all of those characters have a rich rogues gallery, they have that one villain that makes it all personal. In Spider-Man's case, that's his well-to-do friend Harry Osborn's dad, Norman Osborn. And then, Harry. Even though the Green Goblin did the impossible in comics and stayed dead for almost 20 years, he remains the main Spider foe. Let's not forget his role in the death of Gwen Stacy. But with 2 Spider-Man franchises and 3 appearances of the Green Menace, it might be time to give the Green Goblin a rest. That doesn't mean there aren't goblin-themed threats waiting in Peter's friend zone. The completely lovable Ned Leeds in the movies holds a terrible secret for fans of the comics. Ned Leeds goes on to take on the mantle of Hobgoblin in the comics. Well, as far as the public is concerned. The actual hobgoblining was done by Green Goblin fanboy Lefty Donovan. But Leeds was a brainwashed accomplice who would pose as the hobgoblin to throw suspicion off the fashion mogul master villain. Jacob Batalon has been seen having shed some pounds, leading people to think that he's preparing to arch his best bud.
Okay, so he doesn't turn evil, he gets corrupted and brainwashed. Okay.
Responsibility.
Yeah, you know the one. Well, yes. Wanda Maximoff has a whole lot of responsibility because she has a whole heaping helping of power. And she hasn't always been able to maintain control. Part of that stems from the fact that no one is entirely sure exactly how powerful she really is. This has led to some tragic accidents, and in one story that by all accounts seems to be the one that's about to unfold on screens, she has rewritten the very fabric of reality itself several times. WandaVision and Wanda's role in the upcoming Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness all point to one of Wanda's biggest moments in the comics. The House of M saw Wanda's power and mental state become such a problem that the X-Men and Avengers had to come together to figure out what to do about it. This led to Wanda doing something about it on her own by rewriting reality so that mutants were in charge and humans were the oppressed group. When that didn't make everyone happy, she just got rid of mutants. All signs point to this being one of the pathways for mutants to enter the MCU, but not without Wanda threatening the very fabric of the multiverse. The Hulk has been both the villain and the good guy in every movie he's appeared in. That's just the nature of the Hulk. He tore up a helicarrier before he bounced Loki around Stark's sitting room. He destroyed half of Johannesburg before crushing a bunch of Ultron drones. He fought Thor on Sakaar before fighting with Thor. Then he sat out Infinity War after one defeat. You'd think the Hulk's days of being a menace were over now that Hulk and Banner have come to an understanding, but the big green guy might eventually resent the calm nature of the new Professor Hulk and feel like he's been taken for a ride. All that happened was puny Banner got swole. And if that smashy Hulk gets loose again, the fact that he saved half of all existence might not be enough to prevent World War Hulk. The only real question is whose solo movie that will happen in, since any solo Hulk movie would have to be distributed by Universal. We have learned so much about the complicated nature of film rights after the shared universe came to be. This one is a little trickier. First of all, in the vastness of space aboard the Benatar, the idea of good guy and bad guy is a little fungible. If that weren't complicated enough, one of their own is no longer the one of their own that they know and love. Gamora was sacrificed in Thanos' quest for the Soul Stone, but thanks to the magic of time travel and shenanigans, a previous Gamora from another timeline has been left in the MCU's present and current timeline reality. The only problem is that she hasn't gone through Peter Quill's relentless courting and the feeling of actual family in the team of misfits. So, while she went over the cliff as the moral center of the Guardians of the Galaxy, the future past Gamora, while on Team Thanos shouldn't get the gauntlet, was still wiping out half of a people manually just before that. While she knew that she had a relationship with Peter in the future, she didn't seem thrilled by the idea. She ghosted out after the final showdown with her pops, indicating that she is bound to make her own path. Gamora doesn't have a lot of patience for people who don't take the hint, and Star-Lord doesn't do hints, meaning the two are on an adversarial crash course yet again. Marvel Studios managed to pull a fast one by having us guessing at who Jude Law would play in the movie, and the real shock and surprise was that the Skrulls, shape-shifting aliens locked in a millennium
ended up being good.
were actually the good guys. Refugees fleeing an oppressive colonial power. This is in sharp contrast with the Kree-Skrull War in the comics, where Earth just happens to be halfway between the two empires. In that conflict, there are no good guys and bad guys, just two societies of space jerks who really don't care what happens to Earth as long as their foe is vanquished. The Skrulls have even decided at points that Earth was promised to them. Talos of the comics is the rare Skrull who can't shapeshift, but to make up for it, he became such a brutal military leader he was called Talos the Untamed. Playing a long game where he convinces Earth's mightiest that he is actually a good guy so he could secretly invade the Earth, well, that would be the kind of thing we'd expect from Talos the Untamed. While we're on the subject of Captain Marvel, just like any really powerful superhero, the biggest threat in any story is that they'll take that power and turn on everyone instead of being the good guys so that their biggest enemy is temptation or their own anger and judgment. That went south for Carol Danvers in her Miss Marvel days when she met a mutant who would go from villain to hero, Rogue. With Rogue's ability being absorbing the powers and memories of a person she touches, Rogue ended up absorbing Danvers' powers and memories permanently. This is the golden moment for the shared universe. The Fox Mutantverse couldn't include the flying and invulnerable Rogue that we know from the comics because there was no Carol Danvers. With the two characters back under the same roof, they're destined to meet. This could result in another bout of memory loss for Danvers that will make her a villain that Lieutenant Trouble, Monica Rambeau, has to deal with, who just so happened to have been a Captain Marvel on her own. The Black
Nice, okay. I can see some of these.
What of Wakanda stood for and what was its responsibility to the outside world. While generations before have felt that it was important to keep Wakanda a secret, members of the new generation thought that Wakanda bore a responsibility to its neighbors. This was especially true of War Dogs, or the children of War Dogs. While Killmonger, T'Challa's long-lost cousin, felt that Wakanda should upend the power structure, Nakia took a more targeted approach. In the comics, there's even less daylight between her and Killmonger. Instead of being a childhood friend, she's a former Dora Milaje who became jealously attached to T'Challa, who Killmonger helped turn into the villain Malice. Now, it may be that Nakia doesn't take the death of her childhood friend well and blames her fellow Wakandans. Either way, this comic book villain isn't likely to stay good on the big screen. One more option for a flip to the dark side, even if temporarily, would come from T'Challa's sister, Shuri. Shuri doesn't necessarily have a history of turning villain in the comics, but she does become Black Panther, and as T'Chaka would tell his offspring, it's hard for a good man or woman to be king. For T'Chaka, he was foreshadowing some of the morally ambiguous or outright wrong things he had to do as king. To protect his kingdom and the valuable vibranium that made it so advanced, he murdered his own brother and abandoned his nephew in Oakland. A plan that would come back to haunt Wakanda and his son. With signs pointing to Feige finally getting his big wish of adding the King of the Fish, Namor, to the MCU, there's a chance for Shuri to take some morally questionable grounds like she did in the comics. There, she invaded the undersea kingdom Atlantis. Namor isn't the King of Fish, he's the King of Atlantis! While Namor was off protecting the multiverse. To be fair, Namor had flooded Wakanda to attack the Avengers during the Avengers vs. X-Men, but war is a bunch of gray areas. Wakanda forever! Hank Pym in the MCU is a notable curmudgeon. It's not that he doesn't like Tony Stark or his father. The Starks made a lot of enemies. Enough that they spill out to Spider-Man, who has fought 2 people with Stark beefs. No matter how curmudgeonly he gets in the MCU, however, that has nothing on the giant man-sized jerk he manages to stuff in his Ant-Man suit in the comics. When the chips are down, Hank Pym's Ant-Man will fight for the good guys, but he's the kind of friend that you eventually have to say, I can't know you, man, you're pretty messed up. So messed up, in fact, that we can't even really go into it on our nice family YouTube channel.
What does he do?
We'll see the MCU.
What does he do?
With his wife Janet, it is possible that Hank's personality might become problematic in the future of the size-adjusting heroes. For this last entry, we have to do some careful carving of what a villain or a hero is. Because depending on where you stand, General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross is one or the other. He hates the Hulk as a massive destruction machine that can't be controlled. If you're one of the people whose car was used as a boxing glove by the Hulk, you might agree with General Ross. The Hulk is a menace, and Ross is a hero. But then again, Ross pressured Banner into these experiments trying to recreate the super soldier, and Bruce is just trying to live in peace and find a way to control or live with the Hulk without killing anyone in the Hulk's blast radius. Ross complicates that. Bad guy. Similarly, he wants the Avengers accountable. For people who have lived in their battle zones, hero. For those leery of bureaucratic oversight, villain. What really pushes the needle one way or the other in the comics is when Ross subjects himself to a little of that superpower-inducing radiation and becomes the Red Hulk. Even then, he walks the hero-villain divide with the Thunderbolts.
Yeah, you got to
So those are some of the heroes that have a little bad lurking in them. Who is going to share a mother's name to stop them? Which betrayal are you looking forward to the most? Aside from Rogue. We all want to see Rogue and Captain Marvel. Hit us up in the comments and...
Yes, we do. I would love to see the X-Men in the MCU. Spaced out for a second there. I would love to see Storm. She's the one that I really love to see in the MCU. Who else? No, just Storm. Anyways, that was pretty good. I don't know if I'll agree with some of them like it's gonna happen, but oh well. Love to see, watch and find out, I guess. Anyways, that was just another reaction. It was pretty cool. Like, comment, subscribe.